We are live. Okay, so I'm going to put the comment and just wait for people to... Sorry. To join, pinning the comment. Hey, Meredith. Oh, lots of people. Okay, I'm here with Ashlie Atkinson, who played Connie in BlacKkKlansman and is in Mr. Robot and is an amazing woman and actor here in South Brooklyn. So tell me, today is a really, really crazy day because of what we heard about Jacob Blake overnight. How did you feel seeing the news and, in light of your experience as an ally?
Well, gosh. I mean, the fact is I wish I could be surprised. I wish that I had retained, or that America had allowed us to retain any surprise at the attempted execution of another young black man by the police. I have to say, disappointed that my friends, people I know, have not gotten the memo that reposting these videos is unhelpful. All it does is create trauma for people who already live with an enormous amount of trauma. And it doesn't illustrate anything we don't already know. And I don't understand why people are still showing it. That said, defund the police.
Yeah, a lot of people some people are confused by defund the police. Do you want to explain why it's important and what exactly it means, if you can?
Sure. Here in New York, the police have a $6 billion, that's with a B, $billion budget. $6 billion. Now, the police are complaining all the time that they are stretched too thin, that they're asked to do too many things. The fact is that we could hire people that are skilled and trained in all manner of things to deal with all the things that the police currently deal with that are not police. People that focus on de-escalation and community service, as opposed to what the police are historically about and still about, which is protecting rich people and the property of rich people. That's what I mean.
That's right. Yeah, I want to just jump in and say, hey, Big Mike. Hey, Shelley.
Hey, Shelley, everybody.
We're doing Shelley's story soon, from Carabiner. So, what was it like to play Connie, a white supremacist, in BlacKkKlansman?
It was a real honor, first of all. I've worked with Spike before. He's my friend, and I love him. And it was incredible to be entrusted with that. I also feel like I have to be really clear about. It wasn't always easy, but to center myself in that discomfort is also not something I want to do. Because I'm saying these words and I know that I don't mean these words. And I know that I have never said these words as myself. But I am saying them to people who I am asking to engage with me in a professional manner, in a workplace where they have probably heard those words said to them or to someone they love. And those words represent a deep well of trauma and pain. And I'm asking them to trust me and be able to engage with me in this work, and it's an enormous ask. It's a huge ask for people. And I'm so grateful that I was working with people like J.D. Washington and Laura and Damaris and Spike and Mike and all these people that were working together to make this dream come true, because they did take that on and they did trust, and I just felt immensely grateful for that.
Yeah, I think your role had a big impact on a lot of us. I know when I was watching it, I was like extremely terrified.
Well,
and I was like, and I know her.
It's crazy. There's like this whole thing about, I remember watching Kathy Bates talking about this one time, about the invisibility of a fat middle-aged white woman, and how we are sort of allowed to go anywhere because we're not perceived as having any danger. And if there's one thing that, like, the attack of the Karens has given us, it's that we can no longer pretend that middle-aged white women aren't a threat. The inconvenience of a white woman is very, very, very dangerous. And I'm just really glad that that's coming to be known and recognized, because then it has to be dealt with.
That's right. Yeah, and I thought we could talk about allyship. So what, how do we be, as white women, how do we be a good ally?
Ooh.
What are your tips?
I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, the idea of aspiring to allyship is a tricky one for me. Because allyship implies a level of acceptance by a community that does not owe us their acceptance. So, what I have to do is keep engaging in anti-racist action actively.
Hi, how are you?
I'll ask them if they're home.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God, Lara's saying attack of the Karens. Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
Hi. Hi, guys. Stoop sitting. Did you want to say another thing, or I have another?
No, let's keep going.
Yeah. How do you feel about how the movement is progressing in general?
I feel frustration and hope in that I feel like we are attacking the head of a hydra, and we're not really getting to the whole thing. Do you guys need in?
Can you take it in, or are you going around?
Okay.
All right, no problem. No problem. No biggie.
I feel like we're attacking the head of a hydra and not the body, right? Because the body is capitalism, right? Because it's like capitalism and white supremacy and racism are all parts of this thing that we have to dismantle the whole thing. We can't just like chop at the legs of it, and it's all related. And once we made American living a zero-sum game, we were screwed.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that there's this perception that there's only so much. There's a scarcity model that exists, especially in New York City, which is bullshit. If there weren't people that were chronically hoarding wealth, then there wouldn't be these issues. If we were valued for ourselves and our lives, and not for what we can generate for somebody who already has more than they need, then the culture would be very different. If we didn't shame people for their humanity, if we didn't create false systems of wealth and then criminalize people who are poor, then it would be a whole different scene, But the fact is, can I just say one more thing? The fact is that, like, the system of democracy that we've created can't function without free labor. Like, it had, there was sort of chattel slavery, from very early on, and now we use the incarcerated for our labor, and we use the working poor, and it's just like there is no way for this to function except for there to be a narrowing amount of people who have enough and the rest who are going hungry and broke. And if they're not hungry, they're going into debt to stay fed.
That's right. And this pandemic sure has brought into sharp focus what, the folks that are already struggling.
Right.
And disenfranchised.
Absolutely. Like, even the people that weren't struggling had maybe a couple weeks leeway before they were, and that couple weeks made all the difference in New York City, And then when that couple weeks stretches to 5 months, there are so many people who don't know what they're going to do. And it's enough. It's not a bright side, but the only hope I feel is that maybe there are enough people who understand now that we can actually attack the systems that are holding us back.
Right.
And I'm going to get profiled for that, but I'm already profiled. It's fine. Like I said, I'm a middle-aged white lady, so right. We'll see.
I appreciate what you've said about. I appreciate what you said about not centering us though in the narrative. So we're, obviously we're interviewing a lot of Black activists and people of color as well. But it's interesting. We see more white folks stepping up now than ever before. I mean, maybe less as time has gone on. But why do you think that this was a bit of a tipping point?
I think that I personally was raised by well-meaning white folks who were entrenched in a system that they didn't question that much. And so I didn't question it that much. And you can only go so far in an educational framework, not a formal educational framework, but in a self-educational framework, without realizing the massive injustices. If you learn about redlining, then you understand that the argument that slavery ended, all these years ago, and that's not my responsibility, is just an absolutely false narrative. That this country not only profits by keeping Black and brown people down, that it is absolutely designed. It's a feature, not a bug, and that you have to start thinking in ways that when I was a kid I thought was really ridiculously out of touch. I thought socialists and whatever were just wackos, But the fact of the matter is that you have to get at these systems. Our individual behaviors are important, but the systems that we're living under are even more important.
Right.
Did that answer your question?
I think so. It's complex, right? That's why it's not a week of protests and we're done. That's why it's been months in New York, at least, and it's such a highly complex issue. And I'm also aware that we're standing here with my awesome cameraman and editor, and wondering if he has anything he wants to add, because we're two white women talking. And do you want to be on camera and say anything? No, you're good.
I think you're hitting everything. I'm trying to be quiet.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. That's it. So you're doing great.
Thank you.
Do you have any, since we're talking about systemic racism, is there anything you want to share about the experience? I couldn't not ask you.
Well, I think the big problem is that there's this idea that it's not systemic. And that's what I hear everyone saying, oh, it's not systemic. And I'm like, it has to be systemic. Look at everything around us. Look at the government. Look at how this country started. There's a system in place. You can't say that the system doesn't exist. And I think that's the biggest problem, because everyone is just saying it doesn't exist. And I'm like, it does exist. Where are you living that you don't see it, that you don't experience it, right? And I think, obviously, if you're not Black or brown, you don't experience it, but are you really that blind to everything that's around you?
Yeah, because it's in the air and the water and
It's everywhere.
But also, who are your friends, right? who are your friends? Like, you don't have any black or brown friends and you're not listening to them? Like, you don't love anybody that you like, that you're like genuinely asking? And look, black and brown people are not monoliths, right? Like, everyone's experience is individual. As we are reminded by people, I'm part of this reading group, and we've been looking at a lot of James Baldwin's work. And there's that crazy, if you haven't seen it, go look it up. The conversation, it's the debate between James Baldwin and William F. Buckley at Oxford. And basically, the statement is that the American dream is at the expense of black people. And it's 100% accurate. And William F. Buckley tries to exceptionalize people like James Baldwin. His argument is like, well, you're doing fine. Which is, it's keeping somebody, it's keeping a knee on someone's neck and being surprised if they manage to keep reading. And I get really frustrated at people who are like, oh, well, we can't do anything now. It's cancel culture and it's call out culture. And it's like, you are so tired and so fragile, you can't even handle your opinions and statements being challenged. Like, literally, when my parents were teenagers, where I grew up, black students had to have the National Guard at their school so they could attend Central High. You know, like, and that was like 70 years, not even, right? Like, Brown versus Board of Education was in the 50s. People are like, we're adults then that are adults now. You know, it's the same people, and we are so fragile sometimes that we can't even handle being told, like, well, I'm not gonna buy your comedy record because I think you're a dick. And it's like, oh, I'm being censored. No, you're not. And the fact that you think you're being censored means you have never actually experienced censorship. Anyway.
Any last words about that?
I mean, I could probably just go on all day. So
You could go on all day.
I feel like I should get some alcohol.
Yeah, I know.
let's just talk
It's just
about
coffee.
Let's do it.
Let's face it. That's just coffee. Well, I do want to ask because it's got to be asked.
Yeah.
So Spike, who you've worked with many times, who's the master stoop sitter and as much of an icon in Brooklyn as Stoops are, did he share any stories while you were shooting BlacKkKlansman that affected that guided your performance? Did he influence you? How did he influence you in your life?
I've known Spike since 2006, I think, is when we shot Inside Man, which was my first big movie here in New York. And he's always been really generous to me. And sometimes he just calls me out of the blue. I had like an audition for a Ben Affleck thing the other day, and he called me and he was like, tell him Boston sucks. He's like, tell him the Red Sox suck. And I was like, I will, after I get, not before. If I get the job, then I'll tell him on the last day of shooting. He has a very strong point of view, but it's always interesting to me. He's been perceived as a radical for so long, but like, Do the Right Thing is a masterpiece, right? But if you look what he's asking for, it's not revolution. It's not murder in the streets. The person that's murdered is Radio Raheed. Is Bill, like, so it's asking for these incremental changes. It's like Black Lives Matter, right? Like, the idea that phrase can piss so many people off is insane. It's the simplest, most basic declaration, and it's like we can't even agree on that. Anyway, so Spike Lee is fantastic, and what I really take from him is that there is a joy in him. to everything he does. There is so much joy. I mean, he can get loud about stuff. I can get loud about stuff too. But we would shoot these Klan scenes, and he would just giggle. He would just giggle. He was having so much fun because he's expressing what he wants to express on his terms at exactly the right time. You know?
Well, let's let this guy come.
Whoever's most wanted, no. Not again.
It's amazing all these years after Do the Right Thing. What is it, 30, 20? It's 30 years, I think.
Yeah.
That we're still having this exact same. Radio Raheem, Bill Nunn, that was the same.
Yeah.
Same. More
It's
same,
the exact same. It's the exact same. And Spike is so smart. And his vision is so clear. And sometimes it's very funny because he'll like, his vision is so clear that sometimes you don't know. So I would have stuff like, he'd be like, and I've got used to it, and it's awesome actually, because he just sees it all so clearly, you know?
Yeah.
That he'd be like, okay, so you take a drink of the cup, and then you set the cup down, and then you say the line. And so I would like take a drink of the cup, he'd be like, action, I'd take a drink of the cup, and I'd like set the cup down, and then I'd say the line. And then he'd be like, he always says it in threes, he'd be like, now leave the scene, leave the scene, leave the scene! And you're like, and like the first time it happened, I was like, wait, what? You didn't tell me to leave the scene. And now I just go, and like leave the scene, you know? Because he's just trying to make it match what he sees in his head.
Yeah.
And what he sees in his head is a masterwork, you know?
How has he influenced you in sort of your everyday choices?
In my everyday what?
Choices in life, or your perspective?
Oh, man. You know, you get spoiled working with Spike. Like, it's really hard to, I say hard. You're not as likely to take something that demeans you or demeans other people, that punches down after you've worked with Spike. Like, there have been moments where I have been offered jobs where they were like, hey, it pays great. My agents are awesome, so they're always like, we thought we'd tell you that this offer came in and you're supposed to be one of the girls in like the door slam montage of Bad Dates, where just like your physical presence is enough to make somebody go no and slam the door. And you're a lot less likely to do that job if you've been working with Spike Lee.
Wow.
Because you're like, yeah, what am I saying? And then I think about things like the things I watched when I was like 12. How did those influence me? And what did I take away from those things? And what is a 12-year-old fat, talented girl who wants to be an actor gonna see when they see me do that moment? And listen, they'll find somebody else. And that's fine. I'm not judging somebody for doing that moment. But I feel lucky enough to be able to say, maybe not that one right now.
Yeah, that's...
Which is also privilege, right? Because I can say, okay, I don't have a car, I don't have a child. I keep my nut very low, and we're doing okay. You know?
Yeah.
Also, residuals are amazing. Every time I see Spike, he's like, how are those residuals? And I'm like, they're great!
Oh my God.
Thank you!
Oh my God. All right, I have to ask you about Mr. Robot because that is has such a cult following. I have to admit, I was like obsessed with it at the beginning and I trailed off a little, so now I have to go back.
I get it.
But I know you and your husband were huge fans before you even got cast. So
I was a huge fan.
Yeah.
And so was he. I actually wasn't allowed to tell him anything. he wouldn't let. I would come home from work and I'd be like, and he'd be like, nope, nope, nope. So I'd call my mom, who had no idea what I was talking about, and I would like tell her, and she was like, wait, it's what? And I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I just had to tell somebody, Mom. I'm sorry. I love you so much. Thank you for talking to me.
Tell us about your character and what you love about her.
My character is Janus. She is a taxidermist that, spoiler alert, is also a dark army handler who is replacing Irving. So there's actually a moment in the script for the premiere of the first episode of season 4, where Irving was Bobby Cannavale in season 3, and he was the handler of Dominique DiPiero's partner. Dominique is played by Grace Gummer, who is fantastic. So there's a line in my first scene that when you find out that I'm not just like this mild-mannered little milk toast, that I'm actually a dark army handler and deeply devious. There's a line in the script that says, in all bold and italics, Janus is the new Irving. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, let's not put too fine a point on it. It's just Bobby. Just Bobby Cannavale, star of stage and screen. That's not a big deal. I can do that. That's super easy. It's not like he's enormously talented or anything. So that was my job. I like that she takes real joy in life. It's somebody, Janus is a whole dynamic. It's like a whole mood of like being really happy while causing everyone around you intense pain. It's real dark. She's just like so living her life, you know, her best life. But she's a psychopath, so like that's, you know. Hey, how are you?
Hi. We're almost done, but I just wanted, does anyone out there have questions? Hi, Nika.
Anybody?
I just have to ask, our co-producer threw this out there. Hi, Lara. I'll let everybody come out and in and past and rush hour. Out of all the characters you've played, who would you most want to sit on the stoop and chat with?
I mean, knee-jerk, the first reaction I had was there was a rapper named Chunky Pam that I played in a series of videos for MTV in 2006. It was a Milli Vanilli situation because we were under deadline. So a woman named Meredith DeMena did the raps, and I lip synced to it. And I have not watched them in a long time. In hindsight, they are probably appropriative in some not great ways, but it was also kind of wonderful. 2006 was a very different time in fat acceptance. So to be able to be a very, very cool New Jersey rapper who like owned her shit was really great. Like there were lines that was like, the chubby wonder of thunder thighs making it rain when they rub, which is just like, you know, tipping people with craft singles at the strip club. Like it was just really great. And so we did 3 videos, and I think she would be really fun to hang out with.
Actually, what would you say to remind me, your character on Mr. Robot? What's the name?
Oh, Janus?
Janus. If Janus were sitting next to you on the stoop?
Wow. She's so scary. I don't know how. I feel like if she was here, it would be problematic. Like I would never want to get that close to Janus. I would never. If she were here, I would be inside. I would not sit that close to her. She's terrifying.
I had a feeling you'd say that. And why do you think you're getting cast as characters like Janus and Connie?
I mean, I think Connie was the first one. And I think that...
Here, let me move
hey
around.
there.
You can come this way, ma'am. Ma'am, can you come this way? I don't think there's room. Oh, well. Oh, boy. Do you need help? Oh, my gosh.
Just going this way?
She's just really wet. Do you want me to help you? Sorry, we're having a...
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, no, don't be sorry. It's fine.
It's okay. It's okay.
Sorry it took us so long.
Sorry. Oh. She's dripping water. Oh my God. Okay, we're almost done. We're just Brooklyn. What were you saying? Oh, character you cast.
Oh
as
yeah,
Patty.
yeah. So it's weird. I've held a gun more times, like a prop gun, to be specific. I've held a prop gun more times in the past year than I have in the 15 years prior as a professional actor. Spike was the first, and then I think part of it is that, you start getting called in for the highest profile, like a character like the highest profile thing we've done recently. So part of that is just them realizing that I could. But those characters are also getting written, which is interesting, which means that we as a culture are sort of canonizing this idea of the weaponized white woman, which I think is important. I think it's important for us to start, because if we're using the idea of the weaponized white woman, right, then that means we're telling a different kind of story than we've told previously. And that's why I take a great deal of pride in playing like Connie in BlacKkKlansman, because it means that I am supporting a narrative that doesn't center me. And the fact of the matter is, if white people don't want to play if white actors don't want to play white supremacists, then we need to dismantle white supremacy. And also, like, my friends, my Syrian friends, my Persian friends played terrorists forever. And my black friends played drug dealers and welfare moms and all of these sort of like very one-note, get-through the scene props for white stories. And honestly, like, it would be fair if we were just props for black stories, but the black entertainment community is better than we are. So they make our characters nuanced because they understand that that's a better story.
Yeah. Wow. Do we have any where we put in on her?
Any what?
Any closer shots? Like closer.
I've done a
We're
few.
almost done. But, okay, I was just curious. So, is there anything I've forgotten to ask you? Anything that someone passing you on the street should know? Juicy story. What's a little nugget you want to share?
And how
Do you live here?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah. we're little behind the scenes footage.
Yeah.
Daniel.
I mean, there's a part of me that, like, even doing this level of press feels weird. It's hard to amplify other people's stories in this context, which I feel like is what I should be doing at this time. And if you do, then there's always the thing about, like, you're speaking for people that should be speaking for themselves.
That's right.
So it's complicated, and I just want to urge people that are taking this journey, as I am taking it, if you are new to anti-racism work, to realize that this party has been going on a long time without you.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
No worries.
No biggie. This party's been going a long time without you. So don't come in either knowing everything or expecting people to cater to you. There is a lot of good work we're gonna get it wrong before we get it right. It's important to thank the people who take you aside and tell you what you did wrong. Those people, I know that that is an uncomfortable thing, but we have to thank those people because they're letting us know because they want us to continue to work. And we owe them our thanks, not our arguments.
And are there any of your own personal stories that you want to share about, I don't know, what's been the biggest struggle during COVID? Oh, we should wait till are you going in? Oh, okay. This will be the last question. Oh, it's okay. Or does that feel weird to answer because...
No, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, my struggles in COVID have been all health related. And it's been frustrating to hear people not take what we've been through seriously in this city. You know, you see on Facebook, like, well, do you know anybody personally that got sick from COVID? And it's like, well, yes. And I know people who buried their fathers. And I know people who buried their friends. And I was very lucky to survive, as was my husband, as were most of my friends. The divisiveness and the absolute refusal to take care of each other in a larger sense in this nation is really upsetting. Because masks actually it's so perfect. Of course it's the thing that like brings us down as a nation, because it's saying that the most vulnerable in our populations can kill us all, and that you wear a mask not so that you won't get sick, but so that someone else won't get sick. So it's attacking the individualism and the sort of like mercenary capitalist perspective that we have been taught growing up, right? So it's what I keep thinking about the SAG healthcare plan, right? Because they are like telling older people that they have to go back to work even though they're vulnerable. And the very, very wealthy actors don't use the SAG healthcare plan, right? They have private doctors. So like the megastars are probably not so concerned about it. But what's interesting is that those megastars will eventually be on set with someone who's making $800 a day who got their health care taken away. And it exposes the flaws in the system, right? Because if we don't take care of each other, we all go down. And that's it.
Right. Okay, my last question I have to ask is, how do you feel about the election coming up and voting?
I mean, listen, I would vote for a seltzer and a pumpkin pie right now. To be honest, I don't care. I mean, I do care. I care. And I've got to say, here's what I will say. I am trying to be future focused because there are things in the past of both the people running on the Democratic ticket that I don't love. And I hope that the difference between our ticket and the ticket they're running against is that we as a party then send people to teach them the difference between, say, sex work and trafficking, which is an important thing that some folks on the ticket need to learn about. And somebody needs to apologize to Anita Hill, and I'm not telling you who it is. I mean, I know he apologized, but he needs to really apologize. Mm-hmm. You know, he needs to be like, I was super wrong, and here's why I was super wrong. And you were right, and you were brave, and thank you for being a patriot, Ms. Hill.
That's right.
Anyway, but what I hope is that it's a ticket that can learn, and that can grow, and that can express the best of us.
And how will you be voting?
In person.
Why is that?
I'm going to vote in person because I vote at a polling place that is never very busy. First of all, also, my husband is going to be volunteering at the polls, and I hope you join him in volunteering at the polls. So that just seems, if I'm already there, I might as well just do it. You know.
And even though you're immunocompromised, you want to...
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you're going to go, it's as good of a way as any, frankly. Mm-hmm. I mean, here, it's really down to, like, if we can save the country, then we save the country. But there's a real chance that we don't. And so, you know,
Yeah.
one life is, you know, I'd rather go down fighting for like people's health and dignity and right to live.
That's right. That's right. Hey, Lara, any last questions? I see Tiffany and Lara. I sound like the woman from Romper Room. I see Marjorie.
Oh my God.
Oh, are you guys
Hi,
going in?
go
Go ahead. We're going to wrap up our Stoop visit with Ashlie Atkinson of BlacKkKlansman and Mr. Robot and various other amazing works. And we're going to be back with you and your gang, with your roller derby gang.
With my crew.
Gotham Girls, right?
Yep.
Soon. We'll do that in September. So thank you so much, Ashlie, for hanging out with us.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for coming all the way out.
Yeah, and I'm glad we got some shade. It was like blazing hot when we first got here.
It was brutal.
Now
for
the
sure.
skies are telling us, I don't know, it's
Yeah,
very...
I know.
They're
It's
telling us
looking-
something.
It's looking a little rainy.
This weather has been so unpredictable. But thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Oh, hey, someone's just tuning in. You'll have to watch the replay. All right.
Sorry.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Woo-woo. All right. Bye, Ashlie.